Well, good morning. Up here this morning, opening up the greenhouses. The temperatures are finally starting to cooperate with us a little bit. I think it's about 8:30, and it's already pretty warm in here. So thermometer's reading 80, and wanted to get some airflow through here. If you're new to greenhouses and haven't been around them a lot, they get really hot really quick. Whatever the temperature is outside, like if it's 50 degrees outside, it could easily be 70 inside the greenhouse once the sun starts hitting the plastic. So early in the morning, it doesn't take long for a greenhouse to warm up. So our particular greenhouse, we don't have any type of automatic ventilation system. We don't have any louvers or fans or anything like that. So we have to really keep a close eye on the greenhouses when it comes to temperature. Tomatoes like heat, they like it hot, but you really don't want your greenhouse to get above 90 degrees if you can help it, because once you get over that 90-degree threshold, your tomato plants, as well as any flowering plant, could lose their flowers. They'll drop their flowers off, and you don't want that, because your flowers is what produces the fruit on the vine or on the stem or whatever vegetable you're growing. So you don't want that to happen. Now we're still in early spring, this is the beginning of May, so we've got a little bit of time, but eventually we're going to have to get some shade cloths and put on top of these greenhouses to try to reflect some of that light so it doesn't get so hot in here. I believe the forecast for the next several days is going to be good, and even at night I don't think it's going to get below 55 or something like that. So probably we're going to be just leaving the curtains and stuff on the houses open, especially like on our cucumbers. They need pollinators. They need bees and flies and whatever to come in and pollinate the flowers so they can produce fruit. Now I've heard, I haven't actually done this, but I heard you could buy ladybugs and stuff and turn inside your greenhouse. They'll do that. That would be in an application where it's really early and you got to keep your curtains closed. But we want to keep these curtains open so we can get some natural pollinators out there doing it. This is what we're getting into today, is planting some peppers here. We got enough for about one row. And then we've got a bunch of onions that we're going to plant out here in the plastic. We're going to plant probably 2 more rows of onions, and we're going to plant those in plastic. At the same time, we made these hills for onions and leeks. And, ideally we wanted them in plastic as well, but we were trying to get them planted. We'd had them on hand for quite a while, and they were getting pretty nasty. But it looks like they're pulling out of it, or at least a lot of them are pulling out of it. They don't look the greatest. That is one of the reasons that I actually picked up some onions to plant. Still have some of those onions in the basement. If we run out of what we have up there, we'll probably fill in the rest of the plastic with those and see how it goes. All right, here's our little apparatus that Corey actually made it. Got some ends of old tobacco sticks kind of screwed in on 6-inch centers, and then just pushing it down there, making holes in the plastic for the onions. So just mind your drip tape when you're doing it. So basically when we're planting them, we stick our finger down in there, pull the dirt to the side, stick the onion down in there, kind of wrap some dirt around it, and there you go. Time consuming, yes, but it'll actually won't be fighting so much weeds by putting it in the plastic. Plus we got our drip irrigation. And while they're doing that, I'm gonna go plant some green beans. So I got the planter up here. Going to make a few adjustments and do a few things differently than we did before. We planted, I just put 2 rows of Lewis green beans and two rows of Romas, and we planted 8 rows. So it was kind of mix and match, but the beans they're different beans, and you can tell which is which. Your Roma beans are going to be like a flat bean, and the Lewis were more traditional round type beans. So, but that being said, the seed size for the Romas opposed to what the seed size for the Lewis green beans are is greatly different. So you can see, I mean, those are pretty good sized beans. I'll put a few out here and grab some of the Lewis. So there's a little size comparison. So the reason I'm going to be planting 4 rows of the Lewis, then cleaning the planter out, and then planting 4 rows of the Romas is because of that seed size difference. I'm going to have to change the transmission on the planter so I can plant a higher population of the Roma green beans. There is a setting in the book that says for large edible green beans, so I'm going to use that setting, whatever it says for the pounds per acre that they're going for. The Lewis is fine. What we got set on right now is planting perfect. So another change on the planter is I'm going to be tightening up our closing wheels, the pressure on it. How you do that, you just tighten up this bolt here. I'm going to do that on all 4 rows. So last time we planted it, didn't seem like the closing wheels were closing up good around the rows. That could have been, it was a little tacky that day. This planter is not the best planter in the world. It actually needs a lot of love. So we don't normally no-till with it. I think the springs are wore out. It needs a lot of work. I mean, it works for what we do. If you went to go rebuilding this entire planter and doing all kinds of things to it, you're going to be spending a lot of money. And again, for what we do, for as many acres as we plant, it works fine. So I'm going to go ahead and fill up the planter with the Lewis beans, and then we're going to go plant them, and then we'll switch the varieties out and all that, and then plant the Romas. Yesterday, as you probably saw, we got our onions planted. We got some candy onions here, and we got some leeks, which really look pretty rough. But I believe they'll come out of it once we get some water to them, which is what I'm actually going to be doing this morning, is actually hooking up the drip irrigation for these 2 rows, and probably turn on Mr. Sprinkler to sprinkle these other onions. Now, believe it or not, those onions right there, when we planted them, looked about like this. So onions are pretty resilient, and they'll surprise you. We got our row of peppers planted. This year we tried a different planting method. These plants are 17 inches apart, and I believe 12 inches apart this way. So there's 17 inches in between the plant and 12 inches going this way. But we staggered the water wheel, so basically there's one plant, you know, that plant is in between those other 2. So I need to hook the irrigation up as well for these, but these are all green bell peppers. Do have some jalapenos and some sweet banana peppers down there on the other end where the tractor is. That particular method for growing peppers is supposedly be preferred if you're planting in plastic and got grip tape, because you can irrigate them, fertilize them, and we'll see how that works out. That's new for us. We also got our tomatoes planted, which they also need a drink of water. Some of them are starting to stand back up. These plants were pretty spindly and they needed to be planted a long time ago. I believe they'll be okay. Worst case scenario here, it's just like a row and a quarter. We didn't even have enough plants to finish out this row here. But probably the first thing on the agenda this morning is getting that irrigation hooked up. Also the squash and the zucchini that's germinated in the basement, those need to come out. They're getting big. We need to make some more room. So I'm probably, since the weather's going to be pretty good, probably just going to put them in the greenhouse and lay them in the rows in between the plants, and we can just water over top of them as needed. And also got to spray strawberries at some point today or tomorrow. Look at that guy right there. I can't wait to eat him. So we're going to get busy doing some of this, and then need to go over. I took the planter over to Kentucky yesterday, so we got to go plant some more sweet corn over there. Sweet corn is up. It's looking decent. The kickoff not looking so hot. Didn't really get a good stand. Obsession is looking pretty good. You can tell it's got a little cold damage though, but I believe it'll pull out of it and we'll be fine. Might not be in those. There's probably up. All right, so we kind of cleaned this up just a little bit. Ran this straight over here, and we put a T in so I can still go to my water hose here for Mr. Sprinkler. And we'll have these lines hooked up to these rows. Put a 90 in there just to clean it up. Basically, it's mostly cosmetic. It just makes it straight across because it's going to be straight across up there. This runs down for the strawberries. We got to shut off here. If we want to shut off water to the strawberries, we'll put another shut off in down there so we can divide this two sides so we can, like, if we want to water one side, we can water one side or water the other. So probably next is we'll go put that shut off in there, and hopefully we got enough hard line left to run up there to the tomatoes. Well, we are irrigating at least the peppers and the tomatoes up here. We haven't hooked anything else up yet, probably because we'll move this pipe when we're planting the rest of these rows. I didn't want to, I mean, we run over it with a golf cart and it doesn't seem to have any problems. I've been told you can run over this, but my tractor's pretty heavy and I just, you know, soon not do that if we don't have to. We don't really have to. So they're getting a little drink of water. We'll check for leaks, but I think we're good. Still got to turn on Mr. Sprinkler there. And onions they're getting water, so looking good. So we're gonna run down here and unhook the water wheel. I got to take the 6210 over to Kentucky to plant some. Well, we made it over to the farm and got the planter hooked up. Got the seed in it, so we're going to go and plant 8 rows of sweet corn, which is about a half an acre. And you can see the cover crop for the pumpkins is starting to get pretty tall. Now, another thing I've talked about in the past, probably one of the last videos you saw from last year anyway, it was why we were going away from using cover crop for our pumpkins. Well, fast forward a year, we went back to doing cover crop. We washed a lot of pumpkins last year and that was not fun at all. So I believe we're just going to kind of change up our practice a little bit. This year we're going to burn this wheat down and kill it a lot sooner before it gets, you know, up underneath your armpits. So when it gets about waist tall, we're going to burn it down, whether or not we're ready to plant or not. And then we'll come in and plant our pumpkins, and then immediately after we plant our pumpkins, we'll come in with our pre-plant herbicide, and I keep saying pre-plant, I should say pre-emergent herbicide, and that'll keep any new weeds from coming in. So that's the plan we're going to use for this year. After we do all that, we're either going to roll this field down or we'll bush hog it, and the thatch and stuff will provide a nice bed for the pumpkins. I did stop in here, or I did take a peek at the sweet corn field yesterday when I dropped the planter off, and it is up. Obsession looks good, but the kickoff it doesn't look so good. But we'll go down there and take a gander. For Facebook and Instagram, what kind of YouTube farmer would I be if I didn't? Oh, and by the way, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Wardlow Farm. So if you haven't done so, check it out. Well, as you probably saw riding on the tractor coming down through the field, the Obsession looks pretty good. I haven't done a population count or anything like that, but I believe that's going to be all right. The kickoff, on the other hand, when I was out here last night, it's pretty spotty. Now, where I planted the kickoff, I originally wanted to work this a couple more times before we planted, but if you remember, the field cultivator broke, the hose busted, so I wanted to plant corn that day so we could get it out early. And now I may be paying for my sins. So we got a lot of grass over there. Apparently that is, the pre-emergent herbicide kills a lot of weeds, but it doesn't kill grass. And there's not a lot of herbicides you can spray on top of non-GMO corn to kill grass. You definitely can't spray Roundup. So yeah, we're gonna have to get to cultivating or something out here. Not worried about that up there, because we can work out again. That hasn't been planted, but anyway, yeah, just not a very good stand. Let's see if we got anything growing in the ground, or the seed is just rotted, or what the problem is. I haven't found any yet. Oh, there's one. Looks like he rooted and germinated, but I don't know if he's going to make it out of the ground. I will say that is the risk you take planting early sweet corn. Unless you're doing it in plastic, it's a toss-up. And, ideally on most crops, it's like, well, just replant it. Well, we've missed our date now at this point, so if we replanted this with kickoff, it's not going to do us any good. If the stand is so bad, we're going to give it a week or so, see what it looks like, but if the stand is so bad it's just not going to make anything at all, I'd soon just disc it up and plant later season corn, and then we just have corn later on in the season. But the whole purpose of planting it early was to hit that July 4th window or sooner. And this may not make 1,000 dozen an acre like we're used to, but it'll probably make something. And honestly, I see spots that looks pretty good. It's kind of deceiving too, because the ground's not very smooth and there's grass and thatch and stuff out there. We'll just have to see. Well, now I'm going to clean out the planter. Normally I wouldn't do that, but I got a buddy of mine wants to use it to plant a bit of sweet corn himself, so I'm going to get my seed out of it so he can use it tomorrow. The weather's supposed to be nice. But that's going to wrap this one up, folks. Hit that like and subscribe button if you would, please. It really helps us out. And we'll see you next time. Later.